Hello everyone, in 240 Intermediate Graphic Design, here is your weekly instructional video for March 30th. So welcome to the second week of remote instruction. If you are not up to date, in other words, if you haven't watched the 3 videos from last week that are posted in the announcement for the 23rd, make sure you watch those and start getting the items turned in. To give everyone more time to work, less time watching videos, I'm going to try to repeat myself as little as possible in these weekly instructional videos. So that means I always start with last week's instructional video, especially if you didn't take good notes, as it covers the turn-ins for today. So in other words, to find out what you actually have to turn in for the 30th of March, go back and watch the 23rd. Then that way I won't repeat that again today. So what will happen is the first part of these videos I will use to address anything new that's come up. Hopefully it won't be as crazy as it has been in the past. But the one thing that was significant this week is we did get all the information we needed from Adobe in order for you to access the free instruction, the free access to the Adobe Creative Cloud through hopefully until we get back on campus, but I think they said at least until May 1st, something like that. But anyway, at least it'll work for you now. Then what will happen is the second part of the video will transition into me explaining what is due for the following week of class. So it's just real important that you catch that, realize what I'm talking about at that point is not due for another week. And what I'll do in a consistent fashion is I will take the weekly instructional videos and embed them in the Canvas announcement for the week that they were released. So that means that this week's announcement that I'm making right now, March 30th, will be posted in the announcement that is labeled at the top 4/30 March 2020. Tonight we're going to do a Zoom meeting. I imagine by now most of you know what that is. Well, let me and I'll tell you how to access it in a second. But the main reason that we're doing this video conferencing meeting is so that we can discuss the contest. But obviously, if you have any questions that you feel would be better asked, in front of the whole class, that would definitely be the time to do it as well. Yeah, we'll talk about this when we get to that Zoom meeting. So here's what's going to happen is in the email that you received today to let you know that this video was available, there will be an invite and it'll look something like this. In fact, this is what will be embedded in there. And then I believe this will be a link, or at least something you can copy and paste, and that will take you to the meeting. The meeting is going to be at 5:30 p.m. That'll give you a chance to watch this video, and hopefully you've already looked at the design contest that we'll be discussing, the AP Tech Design Contest that I embedded in the message for last week. If you don't have access to join this meeting on a computer, you can also call in, and they give a whole list of telephone numbers as well that you can use to get onto the meeting. Okay, and where were we here? Okay, so yeah, so at this point here is our transition to next week, which we will be starting on the AP Tech Contest and the resume images, and then you'll also have the turn-in of the files for the student handbook cover. Since that has been completed, I will now collect the files for that. Let's take a look at the instructions for those things. So for next week, April 6th, you will turn in one or more good solid idea for the AP Tech Contest. So one good idea will get you the 36 out of 40, the low A grade. If it's just an extraordinary idea or well executed, you could get higher points for that. You could also do two ideas to get higher points, as long as they're both, good ideas. That's to get you closer to the perfect grade, 40 out of 40. What you'll do is you'll post it in a discussion, and I'll show you the discussions because there's two of them for the 6th. Post in the AP Tech Contest 01, because we'll be doing a couple of them for this contest. By the end of day, April 6th, you can put in a JPEG or a PNG. It can be a digital creation or even a drawing at this point. So let's say you just hopped into Illustrator, made your idea, as close as you could get it to the submission, and then just converted that to a JPEG. That would be fine. You could do a screenshot of it, which would probably turn it into a PNG file. If it's a drawing, you could scan it, you could shoot it with your camera. Just either way, get us a JPEG or a PNG file in the discussion. And then you guys are, you don't have to do anything to each other's ideas, but feel free always to hit the reply button in there and let somebody know if you think they are onto a really good idea. And if you're having trouble coming up with ideas, look at what other people are doing for inspiration, never for copying, right? I mean, if someone's got an idea, you never go in there and copy what somebody has. You're just looking to say, man, these people are doing a great job. I need to get thinking and come up with my own unique idea for this problem. Okay, and then the next item, so we have 3 major things due for next week. Item number 2 is to a discussion which will include a post and a peer review, which just means that you are responding back to other people. And I'll tell you more about that in a second. And this will be of the good and not so good resume images that you found. Now remember, we were going to do this the second week of class, and we had all those delays from I don't know, a plumbing issue, from a client coming in early, which was all good, but now we need to get to that, get the resume finished before the end of the semester. So the idea was that you find a good example of a graphic designer's resume and a not so good example of a graphic designer's resume for us to open up a discussion. No templates, please. They must be actual resumes. So you can usually tell by looking at it whether it's a template or an actual design. Now the irony is a graphic designer should never, ever, ever use a template for anything unless they're working on a team and they've discussed that. So I mean, you're a really weak graphic designer if you're starting out with a template to make your resume. But there could be still some good ones out there or some bad ones out there, but we don't want to see those. We actually want to see resumes that someone put online, thinking that they were good or well, yeah, obviously thinking they were good resumes. And then obviously you may disagree, and that's where the fun and the learning of the discussion comes in. These can be JPEGs or PNGs, so you can find an image on Google, click on the bigger version of it, right click, and save it. Or you can take a screenshot if that works better for you, just as long as the resolution is decent enough for us to look at, which is usually screen-ish sizes, like 800 pixels on average in one direction is a pretty good size at 72 pixels per inch for us to also look at on screen. Okay, so that's the first part of this discussion, and you need to have that done by the end of the day on Monday the 6th. And if you get them done earlier, that's even better for your fellow classmates, because the second part is by Wednesday, April 8th, so 2 days, 48 hours later, you need to go on there and do a peer review to the posts of at least 2 students on the discussion post. Now, as I've told you before, the student view is not perfect for me to see exactly what you'll see. So I assume the discussion post will be just like it was before, where you click on the discussion and then click on the name of the discussion. It'll take you into that post. And then I don't know if there'll be a button there that says peer review or if it's just simply the reply button. If you have trouble, let me know, and I can reach out to a student who's maybe taken an online class before with me. Hint, hint, Chelsea, sorry, but any help you could give would be appreciated on these, and I appreciate your help in class so far. So let's make this a friendly, interesting discussion. As I mentioned to you early in the semester, often what one student turns in as what they consider to be a good resume, another student may turn in as a bad resume. It doesn't necessarily mean that the student who said it was good is wrong. In fact, it may not mean that at all. But often it brings up some good talking points where we can say, well, yeah, it's not bad, but I can also see the points here. Perhaps maybe if they did this a little bit different, they could turn that into an awesome resume. And then the whole idea is, again, not copying, but using inspiration, using the critical learning, the critical things that make a good resume. You then apply those to your resume. So in those peer review, the topics, the three things that I want you to address on there is, do you agree with that student's good and bad? So say, yeah, I agree, that's a good one and that's a bad one. And then delve into it a little bit deeper. Like, in your opinion, what could make the good one even better? And then if you agreed on the bad one, what is fundamentally wrong with the bad one? Can you put it into a couple words, or is it just so bad that there's a lot of stuff? But even so, name at least 2 or 3 things that are fundamentally wrong with it. And if you disagreed and you think that the bad one is actually good, then of course, explain why. All right, and then the last, third, and final thing that is due here is the AI and the JPEG for the student handbook cover based on the Turn-In Files video. So let me just make sure you know exactly what I'm talking about here. All right, so on the profsteveg.wordpress.com site, you will go to instructional videos, Turn-In Files. For the AI, you will follow the instructions here. Now, a couple important things to keep in mind. There's no use in you putting the word test anymore in there. You'll still do 2 artboards, one with everything left alone as is, assuming that I would have the fonts on my computer, and then the second one with the image outlined. So the only reason we did test before was you didn't have any text to outline. This time you will have plenty, everything that's on the cover. Don't forget to follow all the instructions, but you might have an image that you need to make sure is embedded. And then you'll go on to follow the instructions for the JPEG using that web area of 1600 by 1200 pixels, and so on and so on and so on. In other words, watch both of the videos. So just be careful that you don't get that mixed up with what we have done for other weeks. For example, tonight, the 30th, I want you to turn in the student handbook cover JPEG at a higher resolution. We're doing that at 150, and we're doing it at actual size. And the reason for that is we're making a PDF to send to Dr. Scaff, so that she can look at that, right? I mean, that's normal workflow in graphic design. You have different files for different things. So the file that I'm asking you for on the 30th has certain qualifications to it, and then the one that I'm asking for on the 6th is for web viewing only, on a website, and you'll address that at that time. Also, a question came up about, why are we doing this in RGB if it's a printed document, a Cmyk document? The reason is when the file is done, said and done, getting ready to print, you will print from the Cmyk version of it. But all the other times you're just emailing your coworkers a file, or if you're actually going to put it on the web, the color for the web is sRGB, and that just makes the most sense to send the file that way. All right, email me your questions.